Well, my name is Milton Mazzarri, and I work for Adobe. In this talk, I will be sharing how are we tackling technical debt, reducing maintenance load, and context loss at Frame.io. The most important thing to take away from this talk is that it is possible to tackle technical debt, and some tools for Elixir that you can use to accomplish that goal. Let's start our presentation with context about what we do at Frame. So Frame.io is one of the leading video reviews and approval platforms with more than 2.5 million of users. It was founded on New York City in 2014. Now it is a distributed team acquired by Adobe on Q4 2021. At the time of the acquisition, we had about 1 million users. And now we are part of the Adobe Creative Cloud platform. Let's check about some progress we have made so far. Since last year, we have accomplished a massive amount of progress or improvements in our code base, but I want to point out that we have reduced the number of API instances from 22 back to 9. Our goal is to reach 5 instances at the end of the year. This reduction happened while we experienced a user growth of more than double. Our API 95 percentile is around 86 milliseconds, and our 99th percentile it shows us that we are reduced the response times are more than half, but it also shows us that we are still have to work to do, right? We are handling around 1,500 requests per second at this point. We also improve our system observability. In addition, we replace some in-house applications that try to handle periodic jobs, also known as cron jobs. And we are in the process of replacing a legacy event system implementation. All this progress, it wouldn't be possible without a fantastic team. Since last fall, our backend engineering team has grown from 10 up to 35, and this is including management right now. After the acquisition, the priorities shift a little bit. We had to concentrate or prepare for a potential increase in volume. In addition, we had to reduce the maintenance load and context loss to allow us to scale more quickly and confidently while offering better integrations with the Adobe Creative Cloud platform. So to accomplish these goals, our organization distributed the Elixir team the following way. We have a monolith, but there are a few Elixir members that they work in vertical slices. For example, in the assets concern, we have a team that involve managers, product experts, front-end and back-end engineers, right? And we have also other concerns like enterprise notification, etc. But we have teams that work on a horizontal slice, and I work for one of those teams, which is the backend services team. That's where I contribute, and we are mainly around tackling technical debt and increasing the reliability and scalability of the application. So now that you know a little about what we do and how are we organized, let me give you some context about the code base. Our code base comes from a previous migration from Ruby on Rails baked on DynamoDB, and now we are using Elixir, Phoenix, and PostgreSQL. In addition, the code base has 6 years old, which is quite old for an Elixir code base. Finally, the masterminds of this architecture are long gone. The context loss was high enough. So let's review the first steps and the tools that we use to tackle this colossal endeavor. Even before I joined officially to Adobe, I knew that they just had bought a license for Oban Pro, and I will be working on setting up making the setup, migrating the first background jobs to this new library. So I took the chance to do that and reduce the context loss by documenting and sharing some guidelines about this migration. I also did some live demo with the team to show live, to do some migrations of the routine jobs from this internal cron application to Oban. Today, Oban Pro is our primary library to handle for job processing. And we finished replacing this internal cron application some months ago. And we are on the path of replacing a previous implementation of a system based on events and events consumers that are having issues handling the current load that we are experiencing. With this change, we gain more reliability, consistency, and observability. And of course, we deleted a bunch of code from our code base, which is always nice. We also use another library called Broadway. Broadway allows us to replace an abandoned house, meaning that nobody wanted to work on that area of the code base. This application it is subscribed to events coming from SQS. Now we have a concurrent data processing pipeline that after enriching the data that we are getting from those events, we offload the work to Oban in batches. This change allows us to replace a whole application with just one module that behind the scenes use Broadway. We also reduced the context loss that we had by documenting the new module and the workflow. We improve also the observability via telemetry events and set up a notebook and monitors in Datadog to track and know more about the whole workflow, and that's including the dead letter queue status of that SQS queue. We also, in this slide, you can see that we use more tools. Credo and Elixir are pretty known in the community, so I will talk briefly about them. We reviewed the Credo config and decided to enforce some new rules that were disabled. This action promoted code consistency and showed us some refactoring opportunities. We created tickets. After that inspection, we created tickets in our issue tracker, and we started tackling each one of those tickets at a time. Here we use Sourceror. Was really helpful for us to replicate small changes across the whole code base, which is quite large. And we also use Credo, for example, to enforce the usage of the Oban Pro worker behavior. And we do that because the Oban Pro worker behavior supports hooks, and we use hooks from Oban to do error monitoring, for example. Another tool that we use is Elixir. Regarding Elixir, our code base originally had more than 1,000 lines in the Elixir ignore. So, and it wasn't included in the continuous integration process. So it was possible to introduce more issues to the code base. So what we did, it was to introduce the check in our continuous integration process. And right now, thankfully, our ignore list is just a few lines. I had to admit that Elixir is not the most developer-friendly tool out there, but it's really, at least in our case, it was really useful to detect unreachable code that after the fact, it was deleted. So let's review some tools that probably are not as popular as Credo and Elixir. We use this library, Excellent Migrations, which is a tool to detect how safe is your database migration. It already has saved us some headaches because when people ask why their code was triggering some errors, we took the time to explain them why the migration could be a destructive migration when you deploy that to staging or production. But I have to be honest, some people say that this library is a bit controversial, especially among people that know how to do the safe migrations. But I think, in my opinion, it's still worth the trade-off in lack of downtime if we miss a destructive migration in the code review process, right? As I mentioned briefly Sourceror before, but Sourceror offers some utilities to manipulate Elixir source code that help us to replicate small minor changes across the whole code base. For example, we enable the pipe chain start rule from Credo that says basically the pipeline that says that the pipeline could be more readable if the value that starts that pipeline is a raw value. We also did the same with the single pipe check to avoid needless pipes like the plague. We also Sourceror to remove some internal helper modules to promote fewer levels of indirections on shallow modules. If you're curious about those changes, you can follow the link from some examples from Matt Enlow, which is a coworker at Adobe. And you can see in that gist that how he made those changes, right? Those PR were around 6,000 lines, so it was really helpful. While we started gaining some momentum and developer morale with the latest changes, we continued the journey of deleting code. So let's talk about that briefly. Thankfully, the code base used the feature flag pattern so to hide or activate features on demand. But we identified that some of those features were incomplete. So then the question was to go back to the product owner, ask them, is this still useful? And thankfully, most of the time, the response was no. So we proceeded to delete more code, right? But sometimes you also have to track what's outside of the scope of the feature flag. So you have to do some detective labor too. You will probably have fewer bugs with less code, but more importantly, you will reduce the cognitive load of your team. So in this regard, let's check what we work to improve our developer experience. Since last fall, our team has started to grow faster, so we knew we had to improve our onboarding experience, and we are still working on that. We have a few ways to share knowledge among the team. For example, we have lightning shares, so everyone can propose a demo, say 5 up to 10 minutes. Second, my team, for example, offers office hours twice a week. Those sessions could be around 75 minutes, and we encourage other team members to join and ask questions, ask for pull request reviews. These have, for example, software design discussions, etc. Right? And third, we have meetings among the whole engineering team that could benefit twice monthly to share more knowledge that the entire team could benefit from. learning from more about. We also recently released our code review standards and the development style guide internally. And we made a few improvements in our unit tests, in the performance of our unit tests and our Ecto migrations. So regarding unit tests, last fall, our README had some notes saying that the unit test included some direct calls to S3. And we were basically embarrassed about that. So we took the time to replace those direct calls with mocks using the library, the mocks library. We also found and fixed some flaky tests. And we are still working on the process of configuring as many test modules to be able to run concurrently with other tests from other modules, right? Finally, we introduced a few improvements in our CI process. For example, with this small change that you can see there, we experienced gains of more than 400% in our test suite speed up. And this is because while XUnit is able to run concurrent tests, sometimes it's not possible to run all those tests concurrently. So that's why mixed test offers the chance to partition those test files across multiple Elixir instances. As you can see, we are using here 4 Elixir instances, and to use to take advantage of this feature, you have to specify the partitions option and use the environment variable mixed test partition, right? Using mixed Ecto dump and mixed Ecto load, for example, allow us to consolidate all the migrations, Ecto migrations back to the early days of the code base. So imagine how long that was, right? So we consolidated that in favor of a structured SQL file. Remember that structured files load more quickly than running through the whole Ecto history. So we noticed some speed up in our continuous integration process and when we do the local database resets. An extra benefit of doing that is that we remove a bunch of migrations files that we don't need it anymore. Regarding observability, in the talk Fables and Foibles of Observability and Monitoring, Jeffrey Otter introduces Hert, which is an internal library from a Bleacher report that allowed them to unify all the metric collection and reporting across services. So we follow this approach to automatically instrument other libraries such as HTTP clients, Ecto, Oban, across our applications. I suggest watching this talk if you are curious about this approach. It has been handy for us. While this conference is targeted to Erlang and Elixir developers, I have to talk about Postgres, which is our primary business storage. It was neglected for some time, and this is not the first time that I see that behavior. So I want to speak a little bit about it. My first advice is keep your Postgres SQL version up to date. If your Postgres SQL version is outdated, please start planning the upgrade today. If you haven't done it, collect stats from your database and start analyzing those metrics. Based on that data, run maintenance actions, and optionally read about table partitioning. It could apply in your case. Once we graded our Postgres SQL version from 11.8 up to 13.4, and after applying the reindex in our tables, we experienced a massive index size savings, and for example, among other benefits. For example, just in our most oversized table, we went from 1.5 terabytes to 100 gigabytes in the index size. We are already running tests with upgrading Postgres to B14, and we are excited about some of the results. Keep in mind that B14 introduces the bottom-up index entry deletion, which that means that it will reduce even more the index load. It will improve the unnecessary page split, and also it will help with the fragmentation of heavily updated indexes, such as the ones that you can find in your Oban jobs table, for example. It is also essential to keep your database as healthy as possible, so start gathering some statistics. Of course, you can consume the statistics on different ways, but Phoenix Live Dashboard offers a really good section to start with. So once you have the stats, start taking some action about it. You can, for example, start identifying the unused indexes, but before proceeding with the deletion of those unused indexes, if you have a replica, check the stats from your replicas too. Then you can move to check the the indexes with a high ratio of null values. So once you have identified those indexes, go back to your application just to verify that you are not querying for those null values. And after that check, you can proceed to delete those indexes, right? Then another step that after doing that, you can start thinking on optimizing your queries. And so consider checking if adding a new index is needed. Remember that the more indexes you have to update to perform a write, slower the write. So be careful about that and consider case by case. And please, do not over-index your tables. Another step that you should consider is to get rid of the bloat and start improving your auto-vacuum performance. Regarding table partitioning, we identify a couple of tables that could benefit from the native partitioning supported by PostgreSQL. Those tables were really, really big, and most of the heavily accessed table rows could fit in a single partition or a small number of partitions. So we also had a retention policy where after a certain period, we archive the data. To accomplish that goal, we had in place a few jobs, like pruning jobs, that were doing bulk deletes, and those actions cause an overhead in our auto vacuum actions. So what we did, or what we decided, it was to automate the table partitioning with using two extensions. We use pgparman and pgcron. pgparman 2, it is what is the extension that does the heavy work, and pgcron is just a scheduler. You can schedule that to run every hour, every day, and you can partition your tables based on specific time ranges, for example, like 1 day or 1 month, depending on your case. The benefit from doing that is that detaching or deleting a partition is far faster than doing the bulk delete operation. And this action, the detaching one table, it doesn't cause any auto vacuum overhead at all. And at this point, having an Oban job pruning the data wasn't needed at all, so we deleted that code. While we recognize that the maintenance load will never be zero, we will keep working on it while we gain more context knowledge about the application. So our next steps will be around improving our data model in certain areas that still suffer from issues that could have been associated with the migration from DynamoDB. In addition, we will keep working on offloading the work from the legacy event system implementation. And of course, we will keep working on improving our onboarding experience. At the same time, we have to identify culprits in the code via retrospective analysis or incident reports. And finally, we need to identify and prioritize high leverage changes like removing feature upload whenever it is possible and keep addressing abandoned house. We have a few of them. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Milton. Sorry for the mic. Hello? There you go. Thank you again, Milton. We're going to be taking questions. Any takers? Don't be shy. Okay, we are taking questions online as well. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate in popping up. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Very good talk. So I'm curious, when you're faced with this very big problem of almost like where do you start when you have a large project like this, what would your recommendation or advice be?
We gain some, as I said, we started with using some tooling at the beginning, Credo, Elixir, to start looking through the code, what could we delete, what could be deleted. And then we gain like momentum, we're cleaning this. So we started exploring another options like improving our onboarding experience, because the team grows so fast during this whole year that we decided to improve that and to let the new developers that a few of the patterns that we had in the code base probably are not the best ones. So feel free to reach out to the older team members to ask for questions. And that's why we decided to implement the developer style guide that I was mentioning and offering these office hours that we offer as a team. But that inspired, I guess, another team members to offer also office hours. So now we have office hours from SRE, the data team, security. So if you have any questions regarding that, you can reach them through a DM or through a message in a public channel, but also you have the chance to go to an office hour and a space that is available every single week.
Yes, it's very good. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, there we go. We have another one.
Hey, thank you so much. That was fantastic. So much good specific stuff we can do. I have a really specific question on the structure.sql, like deleting the migration files. Did you find that you lost any, I guess, institutional understanding of like those like migration files showing when we decided to make the decision to update these structures in the database? Do you feel like you lost anything by deleting those files and not having those in the code base anymore, or do you think that it's like fine?
I mean, nobody in the team have complained about it, but the good thing is that you can go back to the PR and look what was deleted in the Git hash, for example. So it's not completely lost. But I think that we gain more. People were complaining about the speed of when you, at least in my case, I tend to reset my database a few times during the day. So people were complaining more about the speed and the developer experience. So I think we gain more with that than the migration itself.
Perfect. Any more questions? Okay, online, don't hesitate. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, thank you very much, Milton. It was a great talk.